humanity's struggle for galactic respect. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, Galactic High stands as a beacon of unity, bringing together countless species from across the stars. It's more than just a school, it's a symbol of the harmony and cooperation achieved after millennia of interstellar conflict. Within its walls, students from every corner of the galaxy are trained in advanced sciences, arts, politics, and combat, learning to coexist in a universe that could easily tear them apart. For centuries, the prestigious institution had been a place where the oldest and most respected civilizations groomed their future leaders. Species like the Verathons, a race of highly intelligent, serpentine beings with an ancient and rigid hierarchy, had dominated the school's social and academic structures. They prided themselves on their long histories, believing that experience and tradition made them inherently superior to younger races. That all changed when humanity entered the picture. After emerging from their own planet's turmoil and achieving faster than light travel in what was, by galactic standards, an impossibly short time, humans were reluctantly accepted into Galactic High. Their admission was not celebrated, but tolerated, viewed by many as a token gesture to avoid conflict with a species known for its unpredictability. To the older, more advanced species, humans were seen as brash, impulsive, and lacking the refinement and wisdom that others had cultivated over eons. Tyler Benson, a second-year student from Earth, felt the weight of this prejudice every day. Though physically smaller than many of his alien peers, and from a species still considered newcomers to the galaxy, Tyler and his fellow humans had fought hard to prove themselves. But their victories in academic debates, technological innovation, and even combat training were often met with cold indifference or thinly veiled disdain. It was as if the other species saw them as little more than a curiosity, something to be observed but never truly accepted. The tipping point came when the Verathon prince, Karaka, openly mocked the entire human race during a prestigious event at the school. Standing before the gathered students, Karaka sneered at humanity's achievements, calling them a reckless species of little consequence and stating that their inclusion in Galactic High was a mistake. His words were met with murmurs of agreement from many of the other students, further deepening the divide between humans and the rest of the galactic community. Tyler couldn't stand by and listen to his people be disrespected any longer. He challenged Karaka to a formal duel, an ancient practice within Galactic High meant to settle disputes not through diplomacy, but through combat. It was a risky move, as Karaka was not only a prince of the Verathons, but also one of the most skilled fighters in the school. His species was renowned for its mastery of physical combat, their elongated, serpentine bodies giving them the advantage of strength and agility far beyond most humanoid races. The duel was not just about personal pride. For Tyler, it was about defending the honor of his entire species. It was about showing the galaxy that humans weren't just lucky upstarts who stumbled into the stars. They were a force to be reckoned with. His fight with Karaka would be a battle not only of skill but of ideals, pitting human ingenuity and determination against centuries-old arrogance and power. A duel of ideals, strategy vs. strength. The duel between Tyler Benson and Prince Karaka wasn't just a clash of individuals, it was a collision of philosophies, a test to see whether human adaptability could stand up to the brute force and rigid tradition of the Verathons. The stakes were monumental. For Tyler, this duel was more than a personal challenge, it was a moment to showcase the resilience and strategic prowess of humanity, a young species still proving its worth in the galaxy. For K-Rock, it was about maintaining his status and defending the long-held supremacy of the Verathians. The arena itself was a marvel of galactic engineering, its holographic barriers flickering to life as the students gathered in the massive atrium. In the center, the ground reshaped into a perfectly symmetrical circle, glowing faintly with the blue light of anti-grav technology. Spectators crowded the balconies, a mix of towering alien species, their eyes trained on the two figures preparing for the duel. Each duel was a spectacle, but this one carried a weight that seemed to press down on the entire room. Tyler, with his lean build and human frame, seemed almost out of place next to K-Rock. The Verathon Prince loomed over him, his serpentine body coiled with muscular power. Karaka's scales gleamed in the arena lights, and his long predatory tail swished with a menacing rhythm, as if anticipating the coming violence. In his clawed hands, he held a plasma axe, a weapon designed for devastating power, one that required immense strength to wield effectively. Its blade, crackling with energy, glowed with the intensity of a small star, and K-Rack swung it with ease, demonstrating his superiority in raw physical strength. Tyler, in contrast, opted for a pair of energy blades small, light, and deadly sharp. His choice of weapon reflected not only his style of combat but also his philosophy. Humans couldn't rely on strength alone. They had to think, adapt, and improvise in the face of overwhelming odds. Tyler knew that a head-on battle with K-Rock would be suicide. The Verathon was far stronger than him and capable of crushing most opponents with sheer force. But what Tyler had was speed, intelligence, and a deep understanding of tactics that had earned him the title of Tactician of Terra. As the bell rang to signal the start of the duel, K-Rock wasted no time. He charged forward with surprising speed for his size, his plasma axe cutting through the air in a wide arc aimed to cleave Tyler in two. The Verathons had always been a direct species in combat, preferring overpowering strikes that left their enemies with no chance to recover. K-Rack embodied that tradition perfectly, his attack filled with confidence and the expectation of swift victory. Tyler, however, was ready. He sidestepped the blow, feeling the searing heat of the axe as it passed just inches from his chest. His mind raced, analyzing K-Rack's movements. The Varathian was fast, but his attacks were broad and predictable, powerful, yes, but they left openings. Tyler needed to exploit those moments of vulnerability, using his agility to stay just out of reach while landing precise strikes. K-Rack swung again, this time with a vertical slash that came down like a hammer. The ground shook as the plasma axe smashed into the floor, sending sparks flying. Tyler danced away, his energy blades crackling to life as he countered with a series of quick, sharp strikes aimed at K-Rack's exposed side. But the Varathian prince was not without defenses. His tail lashed out with lightning speed, deflecting Tyler's blades and forcing him back. "You fight like a coward," human K-Rack hissed, his voice dripping with disdain. "Is this all your kind has to offer? Darting around like insects." Tyler's expression remained calm, his mind calculating the best way forward. He wasn't intimidated by K-Rack's taunts. He knew this was part of the Varathian strategy to get into his head, to make him doubt his own tactics. But Tyler had studied Varathian combat styles before this fight. They relied too heavily on brute strength and intimidation, rarely facing opponents who could think on their feet and adapt mid-battle. This was where humanity excelled. K-Rack charged again, his plasma axe sweeping in low. But this time Tyler saw the attack coming from the subtle twitch in K-Rock's muscles. He leapt over the swing, flipping in midair and landing behind the Varathian in one smooth motion. Before K-Rack could react, Tyler's blades were slashing at his back, cutting through his armor and sending sparks flying. K-Rock let out a furious roar, his tail whipping around in a wide arc. Tyler barely had time to react, throwing himself to the ground to avoid the strike. The force of K-Rack's tail hitting the ground sent a shock wave through the arena, and for a moment Tyler could feel the pressure of K-Rack's strength bearing down on him. But Tyler didn't need to overpower his opponent, he just needed to outlast him. The duel became a dance of speed and strength, with K-Rock launching one devastating attack after another, and Tyler darting around the arena, landing small but precise strikes whenever he could. With each blow, K-Rak grew more frustrated, his swings becoming more erratic as his anger clouded his judgment. Tyler, on the other hand, remained focused. He knew he couldn't afford to make a single mistake. K-Rak's strength was overwhelming, but every time the Varathian missed, it drained him just a little more. Tyler was playing the long game, waiting for the moment when K-Rak's rage would cause him to make a fatal error. Finally, that moment came. K-Rak raised his plasma axe high above his head, preparing for a massive overhead strike that would end the fight once and for all. But in doing so, he left his chest wide open in oversight in the heat of battle. 9304 at avzong.com. Unity through conflict bridging cultural divides. The atmosphere in the arena thickened with each strike, the tension palpable not only between Tyler and Karaka, but among the gathered spectators, who now realized the magnitude of this duel. Galactic High, a place meant to foster unity among species, had never before witnessed such a clash of both ideals and combat. Students from 100 different worlds, some who had never seen combat, others whose cultures revolved around it watched, transfixed. The very foundations of the school seemed to tremble under the weight of this fight. But beyond the spectacle of the physical confrontation, something far more profound was unfolding. This fight had ceased to be merely about K-Rak's bruised ego or Tyler's desire to defend his species. It had grown into something larger, a moment that could reshape how humanity was perceived in the galactic order. Tyler wasn't just a student anymore, he had become a symbol, a representation of what his species stood for: determination, ingenuity, and the ability to rise above adversity. Karaka, too, had become more than a Varathon prince. He was now the embodiment of old traditions, the entrenched belief in superiority based on long-standing power and historical dominance. The Varathons had long held the belief that physical strength, reinforced by ancient customs and a strict social hierarchy, was the ultimate measure of worth. Their history was steeped in stories of triumphs over weaker races, of domination through sheer force. K-Rak had been taught since birth that his people were destined to rule, that their bloodline granted them an inherent right to lead. To him, this duel was supposed to be a swift reminder to the humans and all other young species that the old powers were still unshakable. But Tyler was not playing by those rules. From the very start of the duel, his strategy had been one of patience, agility, and careful calculation. He wasn't seeking to defeat Karaka with overwhelming force. He sought to outthink him, to wear him down by exploiting his weaknesses, not just physically, but mentally. This was a distinctly human approach, adapting to circumstances, finding creative solutions, and refusing to surrender to preconceived limitations. Tyler's every move in the arena spoke of a broader truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. While they might lack the physical prowess or millennia of experience that older species had, they made up for it with sheer willpower and tactical brilliance. The spectators began to understand this as the fight wore on. What had started as a seemingly unfair contest, with the massive Varathon towering over Tyler, had shifted into something else. The students from other species, many of whom had looked down on humanity as a lesser race, now found themselves rooting for the underdog. The K-Tari, with their quick-witted and analytical minds, admired Tyler's ability to adapt in real time, to see patterns in K-Rak's attacks and exploit the slightest openings. The Thresk warriors, a species that held honor and endurance in high esteem, found themselves silently cheering for Tyler, recognizing in him the kind of bravery they revered. Even among the Varathians, there were whispers of doubt. Karaka was a prince, and his lineage was one of the most respected in their empire, but there was no denying that Tyler had earned their attention. The prince had come into this duel expecting an easy victory, but the human had refused to be cowed. Tyler's perseverance, his refusal to give in despite the overwhelming odds, was something even the Varathians had to respect, if begrudgingly. As the duel continued, it became clear that this was no longer a simple battle of physical strength. The energy in the arena had shifted entirely. It was now a battle of wills, of contrasting philosophies. The Varathon way was straightforward: dominate, crush, and assert superiority. Tyler, in contrast, embodied a new approach, one that relied on quick thinking, adaptability, and finding unconventional paths to victory. The audience was captivated not just by the action, but by the deeper implications of what they were witnessing. K-Rock, despite his outward show of confidence, was beginning to feel the strain. His strikes were still powerful, his plasma axe still lethal, but with every swing that missed, with every calculated dodge by Tyler, the Varathon prince grew more frustrated. His attacks became more aggressive, more reckless, as if trying to overwhelm Tyler with sheer force. But that was exactly what Tyler had been waiting for. Humans, after all, were not known for their brute strength. They were known for their ability to outlast, to outthink, and to turn their enemy's strength against them. The audience could sense the frustration building in K-Rock. His movements, once precise and commanding, were growing erratic. Tyler, on the other hand, seemed to grow more focused with every passing second. He wasn't seeking a dramatic, final blow to end the fight. Instead, he was whittling K-Rock down, forcing him to exhaust himself. It was a methodical approach, one that the Varathian prince had not anticipated. And with each passing moment, the other students, even those from species that had long aligned themselves with the Varathians, began to see humanity in a different light. They had come into the arena expecting a quick and brutal victory for K-Rock, but now they found themselves questioning their own assumptions. Could it be that humans, despite their short time on the galactic stage, had something valuable to offer? Could their adaptability, their resourcefulness, be the key to navigating a universe that was constantly changing? The turning point wasn't a single strike or moment of clarity, but rather a gradual realization that swept through the crowd. Tyler wasn't just fighting for himself, or for the pride of humanity. He was fighting to prove that strength came in many forms. The duel had become a metaphor for the larger struggle humanity faced in the galaxy: the fight for recognition, for a place at the table, for respect in a universe that often judged them harshly. K-Rock, too, was beginning to feel this shift. His initial confidence had been replaced with a grudging respect for Tyler. The human had proven that he wasn't just a weakling relying on luck. He was a warrior in his own right, one who used his mind as much as his body. For the first time, K-Rock began to question the rigid hierarchy he had grown up with. Perhaps strength wasn't the only thing that mattered. Perhaps there was value in adaptability, in the ability to think on one's feet and survive against overwhelming odds. The duel had transformed into something far more significant than a mere test of physical prowess. It had become a catalyst for change, a moment that could bridge the divide between species that had long viewed each other with suspicion and disdain. The students in the arena, who had arrived expecting a spectacle of violence, were now witnessing a rare moment of unity through conflict, where two opposing forces, despite their differences, could come to understand one another through the intensity of battle. Tyler and K-Rock, though still locked in combat, were no longer just fighting as individuals. They had become symbols of something greater, something that hinted at the possibility of change, of unity forged through adversity. The awakening of a new galactic order. As the battle raged on, the stakes grew higher not just for Tyler and Karaka, but for the entire galactic community watching the fight unfold. The clash of these two individuals had become a focal point, an unexpected moment of reckoning for species across the galaxy. In the stands, alien dignitaries, professors, and students began to realize that the outcome of this duel could ripple far beyond the walls of Galactic High. This wasn't just a private contest, it was the opening salvo in a much larger, unspoken conflict about the future of the galaxy and its balance of power. For millennia, the galaxy had been dominated by a few powerful species, the Varathons among them, who had built their empires through conquest, alliances, and centuries of unchallenged rule. Their influence was woven into the fabric of interstellar politics, economics, and culture. Newcomers, like humanity, were often seen as upstarts ambitious, yes, but unworthy of true recognition. The older races had made a habit of testing these new arrivals, reminding them of their place in the galactic hierarchy. It was a system built on tradition and fear of disruption. But now, as Tyler Benson fought with a tenacity and skill that defied every expectation, the galaxy's assumptions about humanity and perhaps about power itself were beginning to crumble. Tyler was not supposed to last this long. He was not supposed to challenge a Verathon prince, let alone hold his own against him in a duel that had become as much about endurance as it was about strength. And yet here he was, not only surviving but forcing K-Rock to adapt, to change his tactics, to question everything he had believed about human frailty. In the stands, whispers began to circulate among the different alien delegations. Representatives from the Kitara Hive, a race renowned for their intellectual prowess, quietly discussed the implications of Tyler's strategic thinking. Could humanity, with their rapid adaptability and unconventional tactics, pose a greater challenge to the established powers than anyone had anticipated? The Lothians, stoic and analytical, observed Tyler's resilience with a detached curiosity, their compound eyes gleaming with newfound respect. Even the Verathons, watching their prince struggle against an opponent they had all assumed to be weaker, began to wonder if their long-held dominance might not be as secure as they believed. The duel became a crucible, a testing ground not just for Tyler and Karaka, but for the very ideas that had shaped galactic civilization for centuries. The old order had always relied on the belief that only the ancient, established species, those who had fought and clawed their way to power over eons, deserved to lead. But Tyler was showing everyone that power could take many forms. It wasn't always about brute force or long histories. Sometimes power came from innovation, from the ability to think differently, to adapt to situations that seemed impossible. K-Rock, for his part, was feeling the weight of these unspoken expectations. He had entered the fight confident in his victory, believing that his training, his heritage, and his raw strength would guarantee his success. But Tyler had challenged all of that. The human's agility and intelligence had forced Karaka to dig deeper, to fight harder than he ever had before. Each time Tyler dodged one of his powerful swings, each time he countered with a precise strike that tested K-Rock's defenses, the Verathon prince felt the pressure of his people's expectations bearing down on him. It wasn't just about winning anymore, it was about proving that his species' way of life, their dominance, was still valid in a galaxy that was rapidly changing. If he lost, it wouldn't just be his own personal failure. It would signal something far more dangerous, that the old ways, the old powers, were vulnerable, and that thought terrified him. As the duel intensified, so too did the energy in the arena. The crowd, once divided by species and allegiances, was now united in anticipation. This was no longer a simple fight, it had evolved into a defining moment for the future of the galaxy. The students and dignitaries watching realized they were witnessing history in the making, a pivotal confrontation that would be talked about for years to come. Win or lose, Tyler Benson had already changed the game. He had forced the galaxy to take notice, to reconsider the place of humanity in the wider cosmos. But the duel's implications stretched beyond humanity. It had become a symbol for all the younger species who had long felt overshadowed by the older, more established races. Races like the Ninians, a technologically advanced but politically marginalized species, now saw in Tyler's fight their own struggles for recognition. The Glarnak, a nomadic people often dismissed as scavengers, watched with wide, hopeful eyes, wondering if this human's victory could signal a shift in how newer species were treated. This wasn't just about Tyler proving his worth as a fighter. It was about whether the galaxy was ready for change, for a new order where power wasn't determined solely by age or military might, but by the ability to innovate, to adapt, and to challenge the status quo. Tyler was fighting for every species that had ever been told they weren't ready, that they didn't belong, that they had to wait their turn in a galaxy ruled by the old guard. K-Rock, too, began to feel the weight of this realization. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for his people, for the centuries of Redefine dominance that had gone unchallenged for so long. His strikes became more desperate, more ferocious, but there was a growing sense of doubt in his movements. Could it be that his people had grown complacent? That their reliance on tradition and strength had blinded them to the new realities of a galaxy that was constantly evolving? In the heat of battle, Karaka began to see Tyler not as an inferior opponent, but as a symbol of something larger, a force that could not be easily dismissed or defeated through brute strength alone. Tyler was representing a future that Karaka had never considered, one where adaptability and intelligence could rival, or even surpass, the raw power that his people had always relied on. And the spectators sensed it too. The tide of the crowd had shifted. What had once been a room full of Verathon supporters and skeptics of humanity had now become something far more complicated. The students, the diplomats, the professors, everyone was on edge, watching not just for the outcome of the duel, but for what it would mean for the future of the galaxy. Would this be the moment when the old powers reaffirmed their dominance? Or would it mark the beginning of a new era, one where young species like humanity could rise to challenge the established order? The duel was no longer just a test of strength, it had become a battle for the soul of the galaxy. Tyler Benson, with his relentless adaptability and refusal to give up, was showing everyone that change was not only possible but inevitable. And Karaka, with every swing of his plasma axe, was fighting to preserve a way of life that had held sway for millennia, but now stood on the brink of transformation. The crowd leaned in, breathless, as the duel reached its crescendo, realizing that whatever happened next would echo across the stars. Galactic High, Chapter 81. The duel that shook the star centers around a pivotal duel between Tyler Benson, a human student, and Prince K-Rake, a member of the powerful Varathian species, at the prestigious Galactic High Academy. What starts as a personal contest of strength transforms into a symbolic battle for the future of the galactic order. Humanity as a young race in the galaxy is often viewed as reckless and inferior, while the Varathians represent the old guard, relying on their millennia-long dominance. Tyler's strategy, emphasizing adaptability, intelligence, and resilience, challenges the brute strength of K-Rake, who had expected an easy victory. As the duel unfolds, it becomes clear that Tyler is not only fighting for himself but for humanity's place in the galaxy, showing that power comes in many forms beyond physical might. The audience, comprising numerous alien species, witnesses this profound conflict, and the fight sparks discussions about whether the older species can maintain their dominance or if a new, more adaptable galactic order is emerging. The duel symbolizes the struggle between tradition and change, as well as the potential for unity through conflict. The spectators, who initially supported K-Rake, begin to respect Tyler's ingenuity and perseverance, raising questions about the future of power and respect among the species of the galaxy.